Hello, welcome back. This doesn't look much like a tutorial setting, does it? No. This is Editing Claire. Editing Claire put together today's video and realised that the first 10 minutes of to camera facing footage are missing from her SD card, which probably means that Editing Claire or Videoing Claire completely forgot to press the record button. Thankfully though, because we operate with two cameras, the overhead camera has captured all of the verbal things that you need to know. Unfortunately, it just means it's not very pretty to look at. That is for the first few minutes, and then we managed to turn the camera on and you get me. So enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Beautiful Things channel. Today I'm going to show you how to take a simple plain tote bag and pimp it up using your sewing machine, and if you have it, a Cricut cutting device. So I'm going to take a plain black tote bag. You can do any colour you like. These are normally available from your craft store for about £1. I think I bought this one in Spotlight when I was in Australia and it was a couple of dollars. What we're going to be doing is changing out the handles so that we're going to create some lovely fabric handles, adding a zipper pocket either onto the front or onto the inside of your bag. The choice is yours, and then if you want to and if you have a device, you can finish it off by adding some text, but obviously that is not necessary. You don't have to do it, but it's a really lovely little way of just making something that's personal without too much hassle. Also a really good way of pimping up a tote bag that perhaps has a design on it that you no longer want. You can cover that design with a pocket and get some more use and life out of the bag. Now, I first came across this when I made a bag for my lovely knitting teacher Carol. I'll try and pop a little bit of footage in here of the bag I made her for Christmas. I had a lovely SVG that I put on the front of her bag, and unfortunately after I'd put it on I realised the handles were damaged, so I actually chopped them off and replaced them rather than throw away the bag and start again. So that's how this little tutorial has kind of evolved. Now, you don't need very much to be able to make this bag. It just takes 4 pieces of fabric and a zip. So for your pocket piece, you want 2 rectangles of fabric. All of the dimensions are listed down below in the description. Go through to my blog and you'll find written instructions as well as all of the dimensions. You want 2 pieces of fabric for your handle, and then you want a zip. Now, I've got a zip that is considerably longer than I need, but I just buy packs of 18-inch zips because it's easier to just use them and cut them down than always make sure that you have the exact size that you need for every project that you might want to do. So let's start by creating our pocket. Now, all you're going to do is place your 2 rectangles right sides together. You can clip up or pin all the way around, and you're going to stitch all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving a small opening in one of the sides to be able to turn it around. So I'll clip it up and then show you what I mean. So my 2 pieces of fabric are right sides together. I'm going to go round and just clip it up. If you haven't got clips, you can use pins. But if you've followed any of my tutorials, you'll know I am a clip lover. Much easier to use. Any of the materials and things and recommended supplies are also available via the link below. It is an affiliate link, so I must let you know that. That means basically that we get a little commission for everything that you purchase, but that it costs you no more money to buy. So I've clipped this up, and as you can see, I've put clips all the way around, and in this section here I've just put 2 clips, and I'm going to leave a gap about my hand's width in this top section here so that I can turn it through the right way. So I'm simply going to sew all the way around, pivoting at the corners, and I'm going to not worry about doing a little back tack either side of this hole because it will all sort itself out once it's turned through. So as you can see, I've sewn all the way round and left an opening. I am now going to remove the bulk from my corners to give me a nice neat finish. That basically means cutting away the excess fabric from the corners, being very careful not to cut the stitches, and it's going to make having a nice sharp pointy corner even easier. I can then go inside carefully, reach down to the bottom and pull this in the right way. Then I'm going to take a chopstick and poke out my corners. This is a really great scrap buster. This lovely silvery leopard print fabric or animal print fabric is left over from a bag that I made. It's going to look really lovely. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is give that a really good press. You want to pay particular attention to the opening here. Make sure that it's really nicely pressed and that none of that lining fabric is peeking forward. We're not going to worry about stitching it closed because we're going to attach it to the zip, and so therefore it's going to end up being closed as we stitch it onto the zip. But you do want to make sure it's nicely pressed. So once that's nicely pressed, I like to start with my open end just so that I can get that secure and tucked away. I'm going to take my zip and I'm simply going to lay my fabric onto my zipper, and I've just put it into the middle here. If you did just have a short zip, then just obviously come a little bit closer to the end, and you don't need to worry about where the zip pulls are at this point. You're just going to position it in place. Now to keep it there, I like to use this Driscoll's Wash Away Wonder Tape. Not that we're likely to be washing this, but it does mean that I can just secure my zip in place, and it means I don't have to worry about trying to pin it, clip it, or it's shifting while I work. So I'm just going to put that along the zipper, give it a little rub down and peel it back, and then I can simply place my fabric on top. Now you can see I'm fairly close to the zipper teeth, but I'm not really close, and we don't really need to worry about using a zipper foot to stitch that down either. What I'm going to do is use a length 3 stitch on my machine, which I like to use for top stitching. I am going to do a back tack at either end, and what I'm going to try and do is put it underneath my machine and just move the needle over to the left so it's a little bit closer to my zipper teeth. If I can't get it there and I can't stitch it down where I want to stitch it down, then I will use a zipper foot on my machine, but it isn't absolutely essential. The most important thing is that you're attaching this fabric to the zipper tape and you're closing that hole as you go. Once you've attached it to the zipper, you're going to bring the other side of your fabric round and attach it to the top. Now what I would suggest you do is, while the zip is closed like this, flip it over, pop some tape onto the zipper tape, I always put it close to the edge of the tape rather than close to the zipper teeth, and then it gets covered up. And then line up your other half so that it's in line with the piece that you've already attached. You don't want it to be off centre. Stick it in place, and once you're happy with its location, then you can open your zip, which is going to make getting this part underneath the sewing machine much easier. And then you're going to attach it in exactly the same way. So once you've done that, you can then close your zip again, but you don't want to close it all the way. You're going to now make sure that the zipper pull is inside the bag between the edges, and you're just going to run a couple of little stitches over the end of your zip here, squeezing the teeth together to stop the zipper pull from coming off the other end. So just a few little stitches just here within the seam allowance, nice and close to the edge. So to do that, I like to close my zip up fairly close to the edge, which is going to help me keep those teeth together. So as you can see, I've gone forward and back quite a few times. That means I can now remove off the excess zipper tape. and I can do exactly the same on the other end. And I'm going to open my zipper just to the halfway point. You can go across this end as well if you want to, just to secure it, but as long as you're careful you shouldn't need to do that. Then I'm going to turn my bag, or my zipper pouch, carefully in the wrong way. Now if you're using a directional print, you need to be aware at this point where the top and the bottom is of your print, because you're going to bring your zipper down by about 1 inch, maybe even 1.5 inches. So you can see I'm now folding it flat, but I've got about 1.5 inches of fabric along the top, then my zipper, and then the bottom part. So my zip's not sitting traditionally along the top edge like it would if you were sewing a regular pouch. I'm now going to sew down with 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down either end. And there we go. So sewing with this method means you do have some raw edge of zipper on the inside. If you don't like that, then obviously you do have the option to sew a French seam instead. So if you'd wanted to do that, instead of turning it in the wrong way like we did, you would have sewed a 1/8 seam allowance down either side and then turned it in the wrong way and sewed 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that would have encased these raw zipper edges. What you might find though is, because there are so many layers of fabric and the zipper teeth, that your machine might struggle with it. So I prefer to just do it this way. I've still got lovely neat edges on the inside. I haven't got any raw fabric, it's just the very ends of the zip there. So because I've left this zip open, I can now turn my pouch in the right way. And again, I'm going to go at it with a chopstick and poke out the corners. You won't get super pokey corners because of the way that we've made the bag. We can't remove the bulk from the corners this time round because we've got that double layer of fabric, but it does make it nice and sturdy, and you can do a fairly good job of poking them out. And then I like to do up my zip, and I go and give it a nice good press so it's really nice and flat, and that makes attaching it to the bag much easier. So now we've got our little pouch. You could just leave it like that, you could give that as a little gift on its own, but we're now going to attach it to the bag. So I'm going to put it on the front of my bag. So I'm going to just have a look and see if there's a label inside to differentiate front and back, and there isn't. So I'm just going to position it where I want it to go. So that might be, you know, down the middle here in the centre, it might be down at the bottom, it might be up the top. The choice is yours. I'm going to position it where I want it to go, and then I'm simply going to pop some pins through the pocket itself, making sure that I'm only going through the front layer of the bag, and then I'm going to stitch all the way around the edge of my pocket to hold it in place, obviously making sure I'm not going through both layers. Alternatively, you can place it on the inside. You could open the bag up, pop it down inside and stitch it in place as an internal pocket, which is quite a nice thing to do. You would really only need to stitch it along the top edge. You wouldn't need to go all the way around, and obviously when you go all the way around, you are going to have a square of stitching showing on the back of your bag if you choose to put it on the inside. So it's entirely up to you where you attach it or how you attach it, but I'm going to put mine in the middle here, just a little bit down from the top edge. I think I'm probably going to put some words on this later with my Cricut. I'm not deciding yet what it's going to be. I've got a feeling somewhere I've got some purple holographic vinyl, which I quite fancy trying. So I'm just going to put my hand inside the bag, making sure that the pins that I'm placing are not going through both layers. Again, you could use the tape for this. I don't know that it would be quite so sturdy though. Make sure that it's all smoothed out and you haven't got any creases or puckers. and then you're going to have to use the free arm on your machine so that you can get right inside there, scrunch up all that fabric and make sure that you're only sewing through that top layer. So I've stitched my little pocket on. I can now take off the pins and use my scissors to trim off any loose ends that I've got. It's nice and secure. Now you can leave the bag there now. You don't have to do anything else to it. That looks incredibly wonky, but it's not. You don't have to do anything else to it. But I'm going to change the handles. So let me show you how I do that. Now the scary part is, first of all, we're going to cut off the handles that come with the bag. And we're not going to worry about unpicking them. We're just going to cut them off flush with the very top of the bag. So they're just being removed. Like so. We haven't cut the bag at all, we've just cut the handles off. You could keep these for something, I don't know what, but I'm sure they'll come in handy. Pop that to one side, and then we're going to press our handle pieces. So you're going to press it nice and flat first of all, and then you're going to press it lengthways, wrong sides together. I'm going to just do this with my fingers, but then I will go and do it with the iron. So you're going to press it lengthways so that you get that crease line in the centre. Then you're going to take your raw edge into the crease line and give it a good press. And do the same with the other side, bringing that into the crease line and again giving it a nice press. And then you're going to bring your two folded edges together. So you've basically got 4 layers of fabric to make those handles. So go and press them both and join me back here in a second. Once you've pressed both of your straps, you're going to top stitch down. Now firstly you want to top stitch down this open side. You're going to use a 1/8 seam allowance and a nice long stitch length. So I like to use the number 3 stitch on my machine, but I also like to stitch down the other side, the folded side too, just because it's slightly more aesthetically pleasing to have a line of stitching on both sides. So off you go. Okay, so with both of your handles stitched, you are now ready to attach them to your bag. What we're going to do is open up our bag. In fact, I'm going to turn it in the wrong way because it makes it a little bit easier. So what you're now going to do with your bag inside out is you're going to turn over the top edge of your tote. Now it's probably got some top stitching from where you chop the handles off. Mine has. So I can turn it over just by that inch. And then I'm going to take one of my handles, make sure that it's not twisted, and I'm going to insert my handle tops in. You'll be able to see where to insert them because you'll see the little square of fabric under here from where you removed your handles previously. So I'll just show you that again on the other side. So with our inch folded down, I'm going to take our handle, make sure that it's not twisted, and just tuck it underneath that little flap of fabric and line it up where the old handle used to be. Excellent. So what I'm now going to do is sew all the way around the top edge of my bag, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch away from the top edge, and I'm also going to sew 1/4 of an inch away from the bottom fold. So it's going to have 2 lines of stitching running all the way around the top of the bag. That's going to secure these handles in, and don't worry, they are meant to be the wrong way at the moment. We're going to secure them up in a moment. So once you've sewn all the way around the top, you're simply going to flip your handles up to where they're supposed to be, and you can secure them with a little clip if you want to. And then we're going to sew a securing square. Now I'm not sure that you're going to be able to see this in great detail, so I'm going to draw it on a piece of paper so you can see what I mean. So we're going to sew here a little square, and we're going to sew a square like so all the way along. Then we're going to go diagonally to the other corner, sew back over ourselves, and come back up to the other corner, and that's going to make sure that that handle stays nice and secure. Now I tend to follow my stitch line, and then I do a 1/8 seam allowance across the bottom and the top edge to keep my square in this little section here, and I go then diagonally across, and I'm going to do that on all 4 handles. So once you've sewn all 4 squares onto your bag, you can turn it in the right way, give it a shake, and there you have it. One beautifully pimped up tote bag, and that's finished. If you haven't got a Cricut, if you have got a Cricut, then you can obviously add words. You could put a name on the pocket, you could put something on the handles, you could put a little logo at the top or the bottom. You can do whatever you fancy, and I'm just going to wait and see how the mood takes me, and I'll let you know what I do with it on my Instagram. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, please do share it. If you make something from it, please share it with me on social media. You can find all of my social media links down below, but I'm most accessible on Instagram. You can either find me, Arty Farty Mac, or the studio, Beautiful Things HQ. Either way, I would love to see your finished makes. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye!